All right. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the Business Heroes Podcast. I am your host, Victor Pyle. And again, I'm alone today, but it's okay because the show must go on. And it is okay, you know, nothing tragic, whatever. But she needed some rest today. And so we're going to go on with the show. And we have a great guest that's going to be on with us today. And I know him personally. Actually, most of our guests we actually know personally, but he's doing some amazing things in the areas of web design, media, um, photography, marketing, and so we're going to bring him in here shortly. But man, I want to tell you all about something amazing. If you haven't heard us talk about it already, Mia has developed an online course, and it's called M Hero, the Mental Health Empowerment and Responsiveness Training. And this training is totally online based, and it just goes through several different things that will help people to recognize signs and symptoms of a friend or loved one in a mental health crisis and how to actually guide them to appropriate professional help. And man, I personally think it's amazing because, you know, and you all, if you haven't heard the story before, Pain Unwasted was birthed out of pain. And it was back in 2017 after having our first child that Mia had undergone some serious depression. Started off with was it postpartum depression, and she just kind of spiraled over the following months and almost took her life. But by God's grace, not only did she recover and become a teacher in the very program that helped her to come out of depression, but went on later and we both founded Pain Unwasted. So now she's a coach, she's a consultant in mental health, a speaker, and has once again developed this beautiful online course that if I had before the breakdown, I would have known what to do to prevent her from going down. But, you know, sometimes you have to go through things for something great to come out, to be able to be a blessing to others. So if you are interested in taking this course, it is painunwasted.org. I'm looking for a little banner that should have that link. But even if I don't have that specific one, if you just go on to our website, painunwasted.org, right at the top of the screen, um, you'll see the link that advertises the ridiculous sale that the course is going to be on. Usually it's about $597. It's going for $97 for the first 25 that snatch it up, and after that, it's actually still just $197. So if you think that's something you need, if you have a friend or loved one that is going through and you wish you knew what to do to help, sign right up, okay? And that sale, I think, ends this week unless we extend it or something like that. So anyway, that's that. So you all check that out if that's something you think you will be interested in. Anyway, enough about that. We are going to go ahead and bring on our guest. Our guest is Mr. Nathanael DeCanal. And like I said, he is in the media group. He is the president of Blue Leaf Media Group. And I knew him at Oakwood University, where he's a student literature evangelist for several years with the South Central Conference. He's spent some time doing insurance and later decided to pursue his passion of web design and development and so much more. And so, Nathaniel, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thanks for having me, Victor. Good to see you.
You too, man. Thank you for joining us. So, Nathaniel, like, tell us your story. Like, how did you get to where you are now? Like, you know, like I said, at Oakwood, you're heavily into literature work. And we are also part of a ministry called NAPS together for a while. And just tell us how, and I won't even say from there because I don't know what your childhood aspirations were. So, however far back you need to go to just paint a picture from to how you got to where you are and what you're doing now. I might ask some questions in between as you're going, but I'll try not to take us totally off track as you're going through your journey.
Yes, yes. So I think like the genesis of my journey really as an entrepreneur um, really began with literature evangelism.
Mm.
And so, I mean, of course, like growing up, like my mother, like she was a baker, chef and so forth. She always had like her side hustle thing going and so forth. And so I always saw some element of entrepreneurship with my parents and all of that. But precisely for me, as a student at Oakwood, I was a literature evangelist, and through that, I learned um, principles of salesmanship and I had tremendous leaders like Estes Taylor and Java Madison and who really taught the principles of sales and like things like learning to grab your client's attention and grab their interest and the psychology of closing and all of that. So naturally after that, after Oakwood, I was hired as I was posting my resume and my.
Excuse me 1 second. So, not everybody watching may be familiar with Oakwood and all of that. So, for those who don't know, like, what in the world is student evangelism, literature evangelism?
Okay, so well, lots of Christian universities have summer book sales programs. So literature evangelism is a program that is a scholarship program where students are encouraged to go out and sell literature, and 50% of the proceeds that they make go towards their tuition. And the school, various schools will match that 50% up to sometimes 100%. And it's a great way to raise money for college and also like making friends and doing ministry and meeting people and making long lasting friendships. So that's, yes, thanks for asking for the clarification. So through that program, through that process, I learned how to talk to people, like how to approach people and all of that. And again, after Oakwood, my life took a certain some detour, and I found myself looking for employment and all of that. And one of the companies that reached out to me, having seen my set of skills, was an insurance company, and I decided to check it out. Like I knew of a few successful insurance sales professionals in my personal life, so that was it kind of piqued my interest, and so I looked into it, and with because I had been a literature evangelist and because I in the ways of salesmanship and closing and all of that, I did really well. So I joined a company called Liberty National in August. And so the way that a lot of insurance companies work, in order to motivate their sales agents to sell, they usually have like this these trips at the end of the year. So you have like from January to December to like reach a certain number in order to like make the trip. And it's kind of like your carrot stick, like you're like the carrot, that they show you so that you can be motivated.
Oh, you mean like the holding the carrot in front of the horse?
Yeah, 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 or
Okay.
rabbit or whatever. So like
Yeah.
that's a lot of like companies use that as a strategy to drive sales and all of that. So I joined the company in August and
August of what year?
2012. So
Twenty-five.
this is in 2012. I joined the company in August, and within the 4 months of joining the company, I had um, generated. I was one of the few in the company who actually made the trip. So
Wow.
think about it, like people had been there since January through August into
Ooh,
December and so forth. So I made the trip within, like, my sales. God has blessed me so much. My sales were
wow.
so
So what people had to do in a year, and maybe some of them didn't even do that, you did between August, so like 5 months.
precisely.
Wow.
So that was a tremendous blessing and all of that. So the Lord had blessed me, and I really believe that part of my success in insurance as an insurance agent were carryover blessings from having done ministry, and
Mm,
also blessings from like the trainings that I had learned. So because while people were trying to learn how to sell a policy and all of that, I understood the psychology
mm,
behind it, and then I knew how to relate to people, things that people had to learn on the job, like building rapport and all of that. I had learned doing ministry. So I feel that literature evangelism is perhaps one of the most underrated ministries
mm,
in for young adults in college and so forth, because there are so many soft skills that no matter what career path one chooses, that you can take those skills that really are taught in sales hours in business school, that you can apply to whether you become a physician or any kind of entrepreneur. Like, you can take those skills and transport them into or apply them to your field. So
mhm,
I really found that to be a tremendous blessing. And so I did that for about, say, 6 years or so. So, like, from 2012 to 2018, I worked for with various companies, and with all the companies that I worked, I was blessed with a tremendous amount of success. And every time there was a trip, I was able to make those trips. And
mhm.
one of the last companies that I worked with, I even was like the number three agent for the company, and
Wow.
we qualified for a trip to go to Mexico and all of that. So it was a good experience, and we were able to use those trips as vacations and without having to pay for anything. So
Mm,
um, so it was great. But at some point, I started feeling like things were becoming routine, and I wasn't really growing intellectually, and I became a little bored with that. And I have a cousin who works in IT. Precisely, he's also a web designer, and I remember I was talking to him and asking him like how life is going, and he was all like, hey, I'm actually, last week I was in Paris with my daughters and my wife, and I was actually working, like, they while they went out for baguettes and croissants, like, I was in my hotel working. I was like, well, I really like the idea of having such freedom and flexibility with a career. And so while what I failed to mention is that my last 2 years in high school, somehow I ended up going to a vocational high school. And with that high school diploma, I actually also had a certification in information technology. So I also had a technology background. So so I started thinking again about getting into technology. So I took a course, kind of like a re-immersion kind of course, and I decided to learn web design and content management systems like WordPress and all of that. And as I was doing that, that same cousin told me, hey, I have a friend at Oakwood. He's now the new PR director, and he's looking for a web designer. And I was like, wow. So he was like, go ahead and finish the course so that you can go ahead and build a website so you can show that you can do the work. And and that's what happened. So I wish I could say that it was because I was so I had the wisdom, but it was really the Lord. It was really the Lord guiding my life. And because the way that things happened, I could not have orchestrated um,
Mm.
the series of events the way that they happened. So he knew the PR director who was going to come to who was coming to Oakwood looking for the designer because the previous web designer was leaving and starting her own business. And so that gave me an opportunity to apply. And I applied and he hired me. And that was really one of the scariest things that I had done in my life,
Okay.
because I was a pretty successful insurance agent, and making this career transition came with a steep cut in pay,
Mm.
and so thankfully I had the support of my wife. Later on, I discovered that she was equally scared, but she did not let me
Mhm.
know this, and so it was really challenging, and I I was there for 2 years, and in that process, I people started seeing my work, and I would get some um, what would you call it, side hustle or side gigs. And so one of those companies, one of those organizations was Pilk. Dr. Jesse Wilson, he came to my office, hey, I need you to do this for me, and I need you to do that, or the religion department is putting on this training. I need you to build a website with restricted access and all of that. So I learned a lot on the job. And so I got to grow tremendously as a web designer. I got to experience um, crashes and all of that.
Mhm.
The thing when you work as a web designer is that a lot of your failures happen in a very public way. And
Have mercy.
so everything that you do, if you mess up, people see it.
Mm.
So, but again, my boss, he was very kind and very patient with me, and I grew tremendously, and so I stayed there for 2 years, and after that, I moved on to become the technology integration specialist at the National Children's Advocacy Center, which is a great organization that advocates for children, and I also formalized my business. It wasn't just like a side hustle or something as a freelancer. I decided to create my company. So by creating my company, that included um, getting a tax ID, getting registered with the state, getting a business license, getting insurance, and for liability purposes and so forth. So that's pretty much the story behind starting my business, starting with watching my parents always trying to make something extra
Mhm.
of their crafts, and seeing my cousin and who knew someone, and with also adding to the fact that literature evangelism giving me the skills to approach people and talk to people and convince people that I am the client, I'm the service provider that they should choose. All of those elements contributed to um, where I am as an
Mm.
instructor.
Wow. 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 Now that's great, and it brings up some more questions for me. Well, one, I think one statement I would say is it seemed as though ministry prepared you for ministry, and what I mean by that is, sometimes people, I think, especially in the Christian world, or let me speak for myself. I When I was involved in full time ministry, I thought that was the only way to minister. Like, had to be literature evangelism or feeding the homeless or doing Bible studies, and all those things are fine and good. They're definitely ministry and definitely things that God needs people to do. But that it's not limited to that. Like, ministry in my head should be wherever a minister of God is. And a minister of God is anybody who has accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior. Because when you do that, it's like ministry could be, I don't know, it's as simple as, even if you're not giving a Bible study per se, like by you exhibiting a Christ-like character in the workplace, or if you're an entrepreneur with your customers, like people will notice that there's something different about you. And giving people high quality service at a high level is reflecting the character of God, because that's how God operates. He operates at the highest level. And so there's more that ministry is broader than a lot of people think. That's what I
Precisely.
can say. And as you're delivering your high quality gifts and services and products, those can lead to something more direct, so to speak. People may ask, well, why do you do what you do? Or, why are you so different? And give that opportunity to share, well, I'm a Christian, and I believe that this is how God would have me to operate. Something like that could lead to Bible study, you know,
Yeah.
but in the world that we live in, everybody's not gonna, you know, you knock at somebody's door, "Hi, I'd like to give you a Bible study, wham, you know, they're not going for that. But if you give them something they need, or something that they want, or that they're looking for, and they can tell that there's something different about the way you do business, you know, that now can be a segue into something deeper as God leads. So that's
Or
why I said ministry sets you up for ministry.
yeah,
That training you got as a literature evangelist, has opened so many doors for you outside of conventional ministry, so to speak.
yeah. In my case, it's also giving ministries the tools to do better ministry or to make their ministries look more attractive on the
Okay,
web.
talk about that.
So, for instance, like one of the one of my niche is to my niche client is really small churches and ministries. So, having had a literature evangelist background, a literature evangelism background, I like to work with small ministries. And one of my most recent clients is a small church in Texas that um, was looking for ways to be more present online and on social media and so forth. And when they approached me to build their website, I noticed that they did not have good headshots of their staff and that they
Mm-hmm.
didn't have good content and all of that. So um, my company has grown to become a more horizontally integrated company, meaning that we try to expand the products and services that we offer that center around web design. So it's not just web design. So if you come to me, so a lot of times a web designer may be a good web designer, but he may not have um, the photography services um, to support a beautiful website or the video services to advertise the website and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say, doing a video for advertising on social media and all of that. So, so we've done things to integrate, like to do like horizontal integration by expanding our services so that we can be some kind of like a one-stop shop in a way, but also to better service the client. So through our services, we were able to help them to um, have a site, have a video to talk about their church, what their church means to them, and also advertise them better on social media. And so to me, that is ministry still, like in a very
Mm-hmm.
direct way, because
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm helping a certain ministry to serve their communities better by bringing more awareness to the services that they provide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's deep, because I once heard that you can have the best product in the world, but if nobody knows about it, then you're stuck with that product on your shelf.
Yeah, yeah,
I can have a product that's not as great as yours, but because they know how to market, they know how to sell, they're going to outshine you, you know, run circles around you 1,000 times. So being able to not only have a great product, but to be able to market or garner the services of a marketing agency, as and you're more than a marketing agency, but you have that component,
Yeah,
that really is going to be beneficial on, um, getting the word out so
yeah,
that people know that you exist, know
precisely.
the high quality products you have, and be able to come. So no, that's great that the way you're expanding there. So you went to Texas then to like, because
Yeah,
you're based in Huntsville.
yes, I'm based in Huntsville, but the thing is, I will travel. I travel to meet with my clients. So I had built the website for them, and when the time came for them to have their headshots taken and so forth, and their video produced and all of that, I traveled and I met with them, did the headshots and did the videos and produced the video and all of that. So, and that's something that I was very happy to do, and to see how positively um, they were positively affected by it. And in
Hmm.
fact, they're asking me to come back to
Okay.
possibly even do like their church directory. So
Wow.
for the church. So things like that really gives me the joy in doing what
Hmm.
I do, and also like creating relationships with people
Hmm.
who I otherwise would not have met. And in a way, I have become part of their church family. Um, Shortly after the week after I left, when the first elder, he had a health incident, and I was texting the church members, asking them like, how is he, and how are things going. Like, I really felt that they had become part of my family as well. So
Hmm.
that's the rewarding part of it for
Hmm.
me as well.
Okay. And so, just for anybody that might be joining late, again, this is Victor with the Business Heroes podcast interviewing Mr. Nathaniel DeCanal of Blue Leaf Media. And we're going over
Blue Leaf
his
Media Group.
Blue, thank you, Blue Leaf Media Group. Have mercy, yeah, and just talking about his story and what he does in the lines of his company, providing services and web design, photography, videography, marketing, and man, so we titled this show um, "Developing um, Resilience and Mental Fortitude." Per our conversation prior. And we were talking about some elements because to be an entrepreneur, to be about anything, professional, to be parents, to be teachers, whatever. Um, there's always going to be some kind of barriers that need to be overcome, but the barrier really starts not so much in the situation, but in your mind. And being able to deal with trials effectively is key in whatever area of life that you are in. So I remember you talking about just a little while ago, making some very public flops in some of your work as you were kind of feeling your way along, or things like that. And I've made some myself, and in situations like those, some people would just throw in the towel, hide themselves away and just not show up again. But you went from those experiences to starting your own business. So, like, talk about that, because that takes a certain type of mindset to be able to, not let those embarrassments or failures or whatever to sink you, so to speak.
Yes. So I think part of that really comes with the kind of support that I also received on, and the kind of patience that I also received when going through those growing pains and all of that. And some of those problems, um, like if you're working for an organization that has a website, and things will sometimes crash, and learning how to deal, no, it's not so much the crashes, but knowing how to deal with them, and finding some kind of internal equanimity to just calm yourself down, not freak out, and just like, okay, this is what we're going to do to solve the problem and all of that. But outside of that, yes, there have been times where I failed in very public ways, and
Do you
I
care? Can you share one experience as such, and like how you dealt with it?
well, so I was working with a client, and he had a webinar or of sorts where thousands of people were going to be streaming in, and the his hosting service did not have the capacity to host that bandwidth of people,
Mm,
and that was an oversight on my part, and so the event had to be rescheduled,
mm,
and so that was a low point for me, and
mm,
at that point I really considered it. Am I really still good to do
mm,
this? Is it something that I want to do? And but somehow I guess I recovered, and I was given another chance, and that went. It was a much better experience, and I decided to keep growing, and
mhm,
not just growing in that one area, but expanding my skills, and offering additional services, and diversifying my services, so that, like, if I'm having um, a, a low point in one area, I can um, cater to another type of client in another area. Because in my business, or any kind of business, really, it's everybody knows, like, the feast or famine cycle.
mm.
Sometimes you have really high numbers depending on the season, depending on the time of the year, and other times things may not be going so well. So I have found that diversifying my services has helped me tremendously, not only to offer a better package, a better service to my clients, but also it helps me to um, um, ride the tides,
Mm.
so to speak. So if things are slow in a given area, I can pick up in another area.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow. So not putting your eggs in one basket, or not just having one basket
precisely.
per
Yeah,
se, but you
yeah,
have a few different baskets.
yeah.
Okay. Now, how do you feel about um, in light of how some of the business gurus say you need to niche down per se and not spread yourself too thin? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
So as far as I am niching down, it's just that I feel like niching down for me means really focusing on one client type.
Mm,
So while I may build websites for various companies that come along, but I feel that for me, I want to um, centralize or center my services on a particular client, so that that way I can scale and duplicate it at a much faster rate, as
hmm.
opposed to, because working with a church is different from working with, like, a hairdresser or working with a dentist and so
Yeah.
forth. Those clients have different types of needs,
Hmm.
and so if I can specialize in working with one client, that way I can address their needs and their concerns and their qualms and their objections. I can say, oh well, if you're having problems with fundraising, or this is what I did for this other church, or if you're having problems with um, streaming, this is what I did with this other church. So, like,
Hmm.
I feel that it makes me a better service provider for my
Hmm.
client, and it also helps me to gain more clients through the
Hmm.
testimonies of other providers. In fact, when the current job that I have, the way that I got the job was all I had to do was because I was walking off like I had just, it was around this time 3 years ago. And I was in charge of the Pelk website, and I had done a great job for them. And I was like, well, this is what I just did. I for this organization, this is what I did for my previous employer. So the same works, the same principle works when it comes to doing client work. When you
Hmm.
show to like your prospective client what you've done for a similar client and how they were well served,
Yeah.
then it just makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah. Well, we had a question come in from Tori Price, and Tori's asking, after your flop, what helped you to push through the discouragement to stick with it? Thank you, Tori. That's an awesome question.
Thanks, Tori. I think it was also remembering, like, you have to remember your why
Mm,
and like why you got into it, and having a goal. And for me, I have a vision for myself, and I have a vision for my company. And my godmother, um, there's this thing that she likes to say: when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And people who succeed are not people who wilt and just fold over when tough situations come along. They just, you just have to find um, the strength that God provides, and also like having a supportive partner as well. If you like, as an entrepreneur, I think it's really good to align yourself with someone who shares your vision, and also who's going to support you and who can lift you up or pick you up when you're down. And I think that um, my wife offered me some mental support during that unfortunate turn of events.
mhm,
So, and remembering the things that I had also done well up until that
mm,
point, and knowing that failure is part of the journey,
yes,
and you
yes,
learn a whole lot
yes,
more by failure is a great teacher.
yeah.
So when you do everything well every time, you don't know exactly what doesn't work. You just know what works. So I learned a lot from that experience. And when I was in insurance, I every time, like when I was being trained, and like, so depending on the company that you work with, you may have a manager who goes along with you to go and see, to teach you to sell. And as time progresses, they give you more and more control over the sale. And so I had this manager who I worked with. Her name was Sherry Kirch. And I really liked her approach. And after the sale, whether it was successful or not, she would always ask, "What did you learn?" So let's say if we get back in the car and the agent is beating himself up, or I'm beating myself up, well, I should have done this, or I'm sorry this didn't go well, and so forth. Her um what she always went back to, what did you learn? So as long as you're learning from the experience, I think that it's worth it. It may be painful, but it has to be, you have to find the teachable moment in order to, if you're going to grow.
I think that's great. That is great. You know, I've been in my own research. One of the things I'm learning is that the difficulties that you go through, or rather overcoming the challenges that you're facing now that you think are so terrible and horrific, help you develop the strength for you to stay where you're headed. So it's kind of like, I mean, the simplest analogy I can think of is working out. Like, you might, there's going to be pain, pushing those weights or doing some of those exercises that should be getting harder and harder. And you might feel like, oh, this is so hard. Why do I got to do all this? But where you're headed, should you continue on that path, I mean, you don't gotta look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, but I mean, you would expect that your body would be more fit, you know, and better able to handle heavy weight.
Yeah.
And continuing in that process, like you don't stop when you get there, like you continue. But having gone through the I guess mental gymnastics of pushing through, is going to be the same thing that helps you to stay fit when you get there, should you choose to accept that. So, um, maybe one more question, because I know time is going, but you mentioned your wife and you mentioned support. And I know that you have a family, you've got two children, and like juggling that, because you have Blue Leaf Media Group, and I think you're still doing work for the National Advocacy
Yeah, the National Children's
Foundation.
Advocacy Center. Yeah.
Right. And you have a family
Yes.
with two kids. Like, how do you work that juggle, like, and still keep your family intact? Like, were there any changes that you needed to make, or was it just, you juggled it all very well, like going in? Like, how did you work through that?
Well, so um I guess the pandemic has been a curse and a blessing at the same time. So I work from home for the most part, and so a lot of what I was able to do, I was able to do it at home. For instance, my son was, I remember like I had built entire websites when my firstborn was young, with him on my lap. And let's say if Catherine was sleeping and so forth, and I would have him on my chest and so forth. And so that being at home has made the ability to juggle work and business and all of that. And so, but I'm quickly realizing that being at home doesn't necessarily mean being present. So I'm learning to create some parameters around my time, um, hedges around my time, and so forth. And by not just allowing my time to just, okay, let me go back. I think one of the challenges in working from home is that your work is always there with you. So your office is always down the hall, and so it has been a challenge. And I think I'm just now learning that just because my office is in my home and my work is in my home, I just have to create time for my family and decide that after certain hours, I'm not answering any emails, I'm not answering any text messages from prospective clients or clients who I do maintenance work for and so forth. So I it's an evolving journey. Like I think that it's something that I'm learning that actually just realized over this break because I decided this is the first year since I started this journey that I'm not working on a busy project during my Thanksgiving through Christmas break because typically the way that my breaks work, I would take vacation from my job, and then I have a big project that I have to work on from Thanksgiving until Christmas to get so that whatever company or organization that I'm building a site for, whether it's a church conference or whether it's an organization, they want to have their big launch by January 1st. So usually my vacations have not been vacations, they have been working vacations. So this year, I decided that I'm not doing that. I am cutting everything off starting Thanksgiving. And so I decided not to like turn on my desktop or my computer during that break. And I told my clients I'm spending time with my family. And this winter break, I will be doing the same. I will be
Hmm.
spending time with my family. And because being present at home doesn't mean that I'm mentally present. So that's something that I'm learning to prioritize.
Hmm. Mm, mm, mm. That wow, that is great. That is, it can be hard for people because it's easy to think, and I'm not condemning this thought, but there's a notion of, well, I've got to do this so I can put food on the table. So I just got to do what I got to do, and when I can take a break, I will. But there can be precious moments lost. Like I once heard somebody say, nobody on their deathbed looks back and says, "Man, I wish I'd worked more." It's
Yeah.
usually always, "Man, I wish I had spent more time with my kids, more time with my family," and that type of thing. So, I'm glad that, to hear that you're making that pivot or have made that pivot to make your family a priority. And I mean, it's not always easy, but ultimately it's worth it, So hats off to you for going that route.
Well, to that point, I there are times where you need to make that sacrifice because I remember when we were in the process of buying and building our house, we had to make certain financial um, steps towards that, and
Hmm.
so it I did not have the luxury to turn down jobs. I'm blessed that I am in that position now that I can turn down jobs
Hmm.
and say, okay, I have reached my goals for the year, and that I owe myself the latitude and the break, and my family also deserves to have me around, but
Hmm.
I can't necessarily um, fault the person who is having to make that tough decision as well,
Yeah.
because um, at the end of the day, we have to put food on the table,
Yeah.
and sometimes that extra um, income that you're bringing in through your residual through your business is what is going to make a difference.
Hmm.
So I am grateful to be where I am, but
Hmm.
I also um, want to encourage the person who's not at that point, who's not there,
Hmm.
who needs to put in the extra work, to put in the extra work, and with the plan and the purpose to know that this will not always be the case.
Hmm.
They're working towards having a more stable and more um, a more stable cash flow and income for your
Yeah.
business. You don't have to put yourself in those situations where you're constantly going, not being able to give yourself a break and spending time with your family. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's why we're entrepreneurs, is to have freedom, to own our time. And if you can't do that, then what is it for?
Yeah, 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 and I get that too. And I'm not just saying it just to agree, but like you've brought good balance to the statement. And I'm experiencing that. Yes, we're entrepreneurs, but yes, I'm also a nurse at a hospital. And my girls occasionally, they're like, "Daddy, don't go to work." Well, if Daddy don't work, we know
Yeah,
eat.
yeah,
We live on street. Or
yeah,
we probably wouldn't live on the street. We got family in the area, but and sometimes I will have to work an extra shift.
yeah,
At this present time. But again, once my there's a gentleman that I was speaking to one day, and he said sometimes you got to do what you don't want to do until you can do what you want to do. And so there is that period of transition where you might have to you know, use a little extra time at work or, take that extra day to
cross.
get some overtime, you know, but with a goal in mind, when we reach point B, you know, we're making the transition so that we can have more time for freedom, you
Yeah, yeah.
know. So, wow, that's great. Well, we're wrapping up here. I mean, technically we're done. It's 9:59. But do you have maybe just one closing thought that you want to leave with our hearers today? And
Uh,
while you do that, I'm going to pull up your website.
I would say that if you're serious about business and so forth, take those steps to formalize your business and have the um, get yourself separate your business expenses from your personal expenses. Have a separate business account. Have your liability coverage so that you can better protect yourself and your clients and your family, so that if you are getting sued, that you have that coverage and that peace of mind. Um, yeah, just make sure that you use a good accounting system. I'm very partial to this service that I use called Square. There are things like Honeybooks or QuickBooks and all of that, so that you can track and measure your growth and your success and see, oh, this is where I was last year. Now this is where I need to be this year in order to make my goal and so forth. So just learn to be organized, and that will drive your success and it will give you peace of mind. And yeah, that's what I would recommend. And that also includes having um, creating separate social media. Like I recently created my Blue Leaf Media Group social media page separate from my own Facebook page, and that you gain so much insight and data from the effectiveness of your post and so forth. Even if you may get 2 or 3 likes on a post, you get to see the impact, how many people it has reached. Those are
Mhm.
the tools that Facebook gives to business pages that it doesn't give to individuals. So
Hmm.
you get to know like how effective your reach is. So as much as possible, like separating your personal accounts, your personal finances, and your personal expenses from your business. That way, you can track and measure how your business is doing and how it's going and how it's
Mhm.
growing as well.
Wow. 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 Thank you for that, Nathaniel. And look, if you are a small church, if you go to a small church and you know that they need services like what Nathaniel and the Blue Leaf Media Group, sorry, I left the word out, provide, then his website is right here, blueleafmediagroup.com. Check it out. And or even if you need other services, because it sounds like you don't necessarily turn down people that aren't from small churches. They just kind of come along as they see what you're doing. But if you need the type of services he provides, definitely go to his website and check it out and reach out to him. You can reach out to him on his contact page or on his website. So
And
definitely
also
go
on Facebook as well.
and on Facebook. So they just look you up at Blue Leaf Media Group on
Yeah,
Facebook.
yeah.
Okay. Great, great, great. Well, Nathaniel, thank you again for being on. And don't go all the way away. Um, but I'm going to wrap up and we'll talk in the back room in just a minute. But again, you all, thank you all for being on today. Um, talking with Nathanael DeCanal from Blue Leaf Media Group. And, you know, hopefully next week, me and I will be on together. But until then, you all stay safe. Have a wonderful holiday. You found this particular episode a blessing, then go ahead and like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel. And we look forward to providing some other things for you. Again, just check out our website if you are interested in some mental health training at painunwasted.org. You can check out Mia's online course. And otherwise, you all stay blessed and take care. Bye bye.